Right people, how to draw a tiger face design from start to finish. So I'm going to sketch this up. I'm going to be using a Procreate iPad Pro. I'm going to start using sketching, technical pencil. I'm going to use a dark red for this, I think. Yeah. Cool. So here we go. I'm going to start off with, like pretty much every design I do, I'm going to start with the circle. I want to kind of face in this direction, so I'm going to do a little circle here for his forehead. I'm bringing this kind of shape here, so almost kind of sort of curved triangular sort of shape. So it's going to come down here. I'm going to make this a bit kind of box sort of shape down here. So you've got these three lines coming up. These ones a little bit closer. This one's a bit further apart. So you see, it's going to be kind of like inside his mouth. Make it a bit flatter there for his noses. His eyes going to be roughly around here in this sort of join. Going to create a circular sort of shape above it, a bit of a circular below it, circle around the back, and just curving off this line. We're going to curve back a line. Going to grab a bit of an ear, come off the back. So this is the basic build up for the structure of the tiger face. I mean, underneath this, I might have like a bit of rose here. I'm going to have some leaves coming off. He's going to wrap around him with a bit of like a sort of light on the other side, like a big sort of neotrad. But this is the basic frame. So you've got a big circle, small circle here, this sort of triangle shape, and this box shape down here to create the mouth. Once you've got that done, I'm going to click up here, turn this layer opacity down a touch, create another layer on top. So this is basically like our base guideline. And now we can start kind of like refining it a little bit, making it a bit more detailed. So it's still going to be very sketchy. So I'm going to sort of create this curve up here, curve down, little nostril bit inside there. It's going to kind of create his nostrils, going to curve just a bit there. It's going to curve around here. We're going to create this first curve around here. Going to be a few curves coming around here, making kind of a bit gnarly. So I'm going to keep curving around this sort of shape, curving down towards that tip of that nose. Create a little bump just in this one. Just kind of curving like that, I think. Inside this bit here, I'm going to create these little sort of circle shapes, kind of sort of joining up, getting smaller as it gets towards the front. And create a little bit of sort of curves, so kind of sort of 3 rows of them, like that. Have his eyeball's going to be here, so I'm going to create this sort of dark line around the edge, but around the top part. So I'm going to curve down, and around this curve just here. I'd like to make it quite dark and around the tiger's eyes. You know, I often get it quite black around it. I'm going to create this little bump here, kind of get a little sort of hint of where the other eye will kind of be. You know, I'm not going to really see it at this angle, but we want to kind of give a hint of where it'd be. So I'm going to create this little bump there, just kind of mimic this sort of part here. And it's going to bump upwards, going outwards. I want to create a little kind of bump bit here before we start curving to the mouth. So this is going to curve down. It's going to kind of go to a gum bit, so I'm going to create this sort of secondary line to create a bit of a gum. And a bit of a curve here is going to be where your sort of chin's going to be. So you can see it's building up quite nicely now. I'm going to keep curving this down. I'm going to create this sort of curve come around this way to a bit of a point. I might make a tiger stripe kind of come off of that, I think. I'm going to create his teeth, so I'm going to create this curve, come up this bottom bit, just like so. Another one kind of come off here, mimicking that kind of shape. I'm going to have his tongue out his mouth, so he's going to have a big sort of tongue curving this way, curving around. A little bit of a line inside, just for his bit of a gum. Same on this side, so a bit there. Maybe put a hint of a little tooth on the inside bit if you want. Coming down here, I'm going to get a secondary tooth on this top part. So nice big fang. I'm going to have 1, 2, couple of teeth there. Not too many, because you're not going to really see all of them at the angle. And then the second fang, you can kind of have the side bit there I quite like. Yeah, I quite like how that's kind of building out. It's got like a nice sort of shape to it. I'm going to throw in a couple of little random lines just for now, just for the whiskers. Going to get a sense of where they might be. curve coming up back here way. So I'm basically building up the structure first before we start doing all the stripes and detail parts. So you're going to get this ear. This ear is going to curve out. I'm going to have a bit sort of overturning. So I want it to be fairly round. I don't want it to come too pointed because the target is fairly rounded. I want it kind of open so you can see inside it. So I'm going to create this little loop, just kind of come here, and then this bottom loop, and I'm going to give a sense that it's inside the ear. I'm going to create a few little curved lines here, just kind of get a sense of where there might be some bends in the mouth, and I can use the target stripes to kind of sort of tell the shape of the face a little bit. And some little stripes come upwards and around. I'm going to go in that direction. I'm going to have a little sort of fur texture just come around, so you've got a bit of fur coming around that way. But he's already looking a bit kind of gnarly. I'm really liking how this design's kind of looking. So I'm going to turn this one transparency down a touch as well. So we're going to kind of build up layer by layer. Now I've got to come in and really kind of refine it. So I'm going to turn that secondary layer. The first layer is going to go right down now. Almost disappear. And now we're creating like a third layer on top to really define it. So I'm going to zoom in quite close so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to get this line come up here. Can have this little bit kind of come off the top, I think. I quite like how that looks. Create that nostril bit just there. It's going to curve in, come to the front. A little line just here to give a sort of hint of where the nose kind of splits into the front. Bit of shadow on one side. Bit dark bit down the front. Now where you've got this mouth bit here, I'm going to create this a bit bumpy so it's not going to be dead smooth. Curve this around just like so. So you've got this really nice kind of sort of bumpy texture kind of curving around. I'm going to get this secondary sort of ones come up here. So they kind of sort of like all kind of sort of point towards the nose. A little centre of it inside the head, which I'm not too sure on that bottom part actually. Let's make it a bit more curved. Yeah, that's better. A few little lines there. Sometimes I'm just trying to get the right sort of shape for these bits. Plot this in around here. So I say we're going to nice and dark around this eye. Pupil in there. Give him a bit of shadow just around it. Now this part here and this part here is going to be fairly white, and then we have sort of darker bits around the outside. So just kind of getting all that sort of structure in there. We'll come back to that. I'm going to make these little curves around it. I'm going to get this bit inside here done now. So I'm going to create a little line around these sort of shapes where they sort of join up. A bit separate around these bits. Just throw a bit of shadow just inside those for now. Like how that's looking. Let's get the right kind of sort of structure to it now. Just going to put a little shadow just inside the nose, just to kind of create a bit of different sort of tone to it. You know, because this bit's going to be fairly white, this bit's going to be kind of like, would be orange, so this would be a bit darker there. And the nose would be pink, so it wouldn't be quite as light as that section. Just going to get a couple of teeth just here, a hint of them, and then that secondary fang in there as well. I'm going to create a little line just down the centre bit, a little shadow just for a bit of detail there. I'm going to put a little drop shadow just across the top, just where the kind of gum will make a bit of shadow on it. Yeah, I like that. It's looking good. So I'm going to create this line around here, so I'm going to get this gum effect. So I'm going to start off with the first line, which is going to be fairly smooth. And then you're going to have these sort of bumpier bits on the inside. this little stretchy skin bit with some lines just here. Kind of show where the mouth is really kind of stretching open. I'm going to create the teeth in here. I'm going to make this a bit more kind of angular than I originally sketched it. Because looking at it up close, I want a bit more angle to it. And again, just a little bit of shadow just halfway through it. Just going to create this tongue. A bit of shadow just underneath the bottom part of the tongue. Same reason, just kind of sort of tell off the shape of it, so you kind of got a sense of the shape. A bit of shadow just over here, so the mouth will kind of shadow this part. So put that there. I just want to bring this bit of gum bit just on the inside, just to kind of show how this kind of connects up to the other side of the mouth. Bit of shadow just coming off the tip of this nose. Again, it's just kind of make the sort of, you know, the colour difference, because that will kind of be a bit orangey, want a bit darker. You know, when shading, you want to kind of make a habit of trying to keep it nice and tight like this. You know, if you do this too much, it kind of goes a bit too sort of off the place. You know, nice and tight, we'll get a nice even shade. You know, that's the secret to nice shading. I will do a separate video sort of directly on shading, so it's just predominantly on shading. Now what I'm going to do, once I've sort of done this, I'm going to turn the opacity down and I'll kind of come back in and like really kind of neaten up some of those lines and shading bits and just smooth them out. Now it's really easy to come back with a low opacity and really kind of sort of blend stuff out a bit. I'm going to show you guys how to do that as well. So really liking how the front of this face is going. It's really kind of looking a bit kind of gnarly and gruesome. Gonna put a little secondary line just there, just kind of give a hint, you know, this part on the other side, because I feel like at the angle you might see just a hint of it. It's always worth keeping in mind, you know, just what might be seen on the other side of the face at the angle. You know, sometimes, you know, you will still see certain parts of it. So I'm going to start adding a few little sort of tiger stripes. So I want this nice kind of curve coming around that section we've done around the eye. So that would be sort of shaded in. Like that. Might have this one come up here. This one kind of sort of go towards the head a bit. Just create a bit of a fun kind of shape of it. Now if I'm with the stripes, I just kind of make them up as I go along. There's no specific sort of like formula to them. You know, and it's one of the parts you can kind of get really creative with, because you can kind of make it anyhow you kind of want, which I really quite like, to be honest. Sometimes it's nice to have just little sections just like this, kind of breaking into it. Sometimes it's nice to have the big sort of chunks going across. Sometimes you create little kind of hole bits in the middle, which looks quite nice. Yeah, I literally just play around, but you know, it's just having a bit of fun with it. And sometimes not overdoing it is a good idea. Sometimes you can go overkill and put too many stripes in. Just like sometimes you can go too little. It's just, once you get to a stage where you think, oh yeah, it looks sweet, maybe just consider maybe kind of stopping there. I'm trying to make it fairly symmetric, so I'm sort of like imagining like they've got this line down the centre of the head part here. So I'm putting one side and sort of trying to think maybe that kind of go on the other side. Let's head shape back. Get that ear in there. Sometimes for the actual stripes, I like to do the sort of shadow like this and kind of like bring it across first before I kind of line it in. I think sometimes it makes it easier kind of getting the kind of right width, you know, because as you sort of join it, you kind of get a sense of it looking a bit better. So pretty much just making it up as I go along, just kind of putting each one in. And when it kind of gets to stage looks cool, like yeah, if it doesn't look cool, just kind of go back a couple of steps. when you first start doing them, you probably they probably won't look too great, but you'll get to a stage where you kind of get the hang of them, and you'll generally find most of the straps you start putting in after a while will start to look really good. It takes a few attempts, but once you've sort of drawn a few tigers, you kind of get the swing of them. And everyone's kind of got their own sort of way of doing it, so everyone does them a bit differently. I'm liking how they're kind of looking across the top there. Going to put in this little kind of fur texture, so I'm going to flick these lines across like this. Put it the other way. Just give it a hint of where the inside part of the ear wood is. Little stripe just on the ear. You don't always get them on the ear, but I quite like them on the ear. So sometimes it's nice, it's kind of a little bit sometimes in between. You often get those little kind of sort of stripes, sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. I like how that's looking. Yeah, I like that one, that's got a nice shape to it. Now try and go thicker and thinner in different areas, kind of play around with them. It's all up to you at the end of the day, it's your drawing, it can be however you want, but I like making them sort of different sort of shapes and sizes. It's worth experimenting, because every now and again you can do one way and you can think, oh, that looks really cool now, and then you start doing that way in the future and you find your own kind of sort of trademark stripes. This one coming around here. Yeah, I'm liking this. This is looking really cool. Just stay in the middle, like that. That's one of my favourite tags I've done. I really like this. It's funny, sometimes you get started to spend so much time on in colour, the design, oh yeah, it looks pretty nice, and then sometimes you get one like this that I'm just like really kind of quickly kind of just whipping together and a bit like a diamond in a rough. It's just really liking it. Might even have to tattoo this one. After lockdown, of course. If you're watching this after lockdown, then yeah, I might have already tattooed it, but we're on lockdown currently. So yeah, I'll probably do this afterwards. Right, I'm going to find some fur texture now, so I'm going to get some of these like flick lines in here. You kind of get the hang of it, you kind of get this motion, and once you kind of get the motion, you kind of whip it in pretty quick. It's kind of repeating the same kind of sort of motion over and over again. Just going to throw a little couple of lines in here, just sort of skin tone lines, just where it kind of gets a bit bumpy around the jaw and stuff. It's just like little extra details. Where it's not a stripe, it's just a bump in the skin. So you want to go a bit lighter with the shading with it. Yeah, throwing these whiskers. I like to make them quite bold, a bit bolder than they would actually be in real life. No, but they're such cool little feature whiskers. I don't do no exact number of them, I just kind of do them until I feel like it looks about right. Just a little one just off his eyebrows. And now we're done, I'm going to create another layer. I'm just going to turn this opacity right down now to about 30, 25, 30. And I'm going to come in now and just put in some nice, smooth, soft shading. Just to kind of bold out areas, just kind of neaten it up. Make it look a bit nicer. Now the trick here, like I said, is just nice, tight formations. You know, just each time you kind of want to overlap the previous line you've done. Get that and you get like a nice smooth kind of grain texture. It makes it really good for shading out. But it's these kind of little finishing touches that just really kind of make the design. By doing a separate layer at the end of it, what there's I flick it on and off so you can really see just how much of a difference it makes. So just kind of bring it around to these edge parts here, and I'm just like fading down from these edges. Giving a little highlight between them so you kind of get the sense of each one kind of sort of bumps a little bit. Now just here, as the head kind of sort of, bends, I'm going to create this little sort of shadow that's going to come fairly much to a point, and it's going to really kind of give a sense of like this sudden sort of like twist and shape, which I really like. It's very common with like Neo tread. You can do it under the eye, but just a little bit, well, over the eye, just a little bit lighter than it will for the rest parts. Let's get his pupil in there, shadow across the top. Just got to remember, like I said, this section here and this section here would be white. So what I'm going to do is put a bit of shadow just around the edge part so you can really kind of see the difference in what the colours would be. Without obviously just kind of sort of bunging in that. Next, it's very important to remember, even though you're not doing it necessarily in colour, you want to give a sense of where those colours are. And just keep in mind, sort of think, okay, if it's white and if it's orange, that orange bit's going to be a bit darker, so it's worth adding a little shadow there. Which part's going to be black, which part's going to be darker tones like dark reds. And just try and keep the values in your head, so you sort of like get everything about right. It hasn't been perfect, but you definitely want to try and show the difference in those tones. So you're going to see as I start kind of sort of bolting these bits out here, you're going to notice a big difference between that part underneath the eye and around the eye. Look at it and you kind of sort of like look at it and start thinking, okay, that looks white, compared to the rest. I'm sort of shading in a few different directions, so I'm kind of cross hatching here. And that really helps to kind of sort of bold areas. You can also even out bits as well, which is quite nice. Gonna do a similar thing around this ear part here, because bit dark around here, because inside the ear, this part here would be white, but the outside wouldn't be, the outside would be orange. So again, I'm just going to bring in this shade just around it to really kind of sort of try and tell the difference between those areas. Building it up, just keep the little crosshatch parts, we just kind of separate areas. Around this outside edge here, I'm just going to put a bit of shade, it's going to make it a bit darker than what it should be. but it's really nice because it's going to just basically set the design in. In reality, you wouldn't necessarily get the dark shade there, but that shade will just kind of help give a sense of kind of curvature. So although it's not completely realistic, we're making it like realistic elemented. Because whenever you give something a bit of sense of 3Dness, a bit of kind of curvature, you're kind of basing it on what's, reality things, even though that isn't really real in this case, if that makes sense. Don't know if I'm explaining that bit right, but yeah, if I am, let me know. If I'm not, let me know. I'll try and make it a bit more simple. See, I'm just trying to build up those shades everywhere where the body would kind of be a bit orange. I'm sort of trying to do it, and as it gets to the white, it's kind of fading it out. Because obviously on the bottom of the mouth here would be like fairly white going around towards these bits. Yeah, I'm really liking that. I'm going to get a bit of shadow in the mouth here because his mouth will be quite dark, to be honest. So I'll put a bit darker than what I have it. It also helps sort of separate areas into sections so you can really sort of define a feature from like further away. Because sometimes the design, from further away can get a bit lost, if there's not enough sort of shadow and tone. If everything's roughly along the same kind of levels, it all looks a bit kind of samey. A bit of shadow underneath the ear bit there. Yeah, and I'm liking this. This lip will be like fairly black, so I want this black bit kind of coming up around here. You can really see it starting to come together now. You can see the difference in those white sections, which is what we really wanted. Cool, now we've got that face done. Just going to add a quick little flare just down the bottom. So I'm going to show you, that's with the tone. That tone. So you can see how much of a difference it makes to the overall shape of the image. So yeah, it's going to put a quick little flower in here, I think. So we're going to create a little petal just here. Petal just there. Roughly sketching kind of egg shape. Maybe turn leaf that way. Just create these little kind of overturn bits, just kind of where the petals kind of pile up in the center of this. One petal in here. Petal in there. Up around there. Just going to bolt it out. Around a couple of leaves just to shape it off. Don't want it to feel too small in comparison. You don't want to be bigger than the tiger, but you don't want it to feel too small. And if it's too small, it's going to feel like it's just like a random extra, which we really don't want. Throw in these little leaf bits here. Okay, separate layer just here because I want to get this circle shape in here, so create a perfect circle. Move that to the position I want. I think I want it around there like that. And then yeah, just erase the bits which you don't need, so just kind of around there, which you don't want. And now you've got that, it's going to come down. I'm going to turn this down a touch. And I'll set this to moon. Somewhere I'll turn the flower down a touch and just come back in. Same way I've done before, now I'm just going to refine it. Just make it nice and neat. And then we just add a little bit of shading in there, I think. And once we've got that done, that should pretty much be it, I think. What I might do after this, I might make another separate video on how you would turn this then into a tattoo stencil. You know, what I would do to kind of mark everything out. Let's get these little leafy bits in here. So I cut these out. Curve them in. So you got a line coming out. Curve out, curve back inwards. Correct one here. I like to make it when a bit uneven so they don't match up on either side. I mean, you can do if you want. It's just I've been a fan of doing this recently. Once there's those leaf bits around the outside, it's going to put a little bit of shadow just kind of underneath for each kind of petal bit where it kind of sit. Turn this transparency down a touch. So as it kind of hit the petal underneath, just the way the shadow will kind of sit. This kind of one takes practice because just understanding that the shape underneath won't be the exact same shape on top, because as it hits it, it sort of starts to bend in areas. And it'll often go concave, so when the line goes this way, it'll often go the other way because where this petal kind of bends down. So you can see you've got this sort of shadow underneath, which is pretty much right, but it's not the same shape. You know, it's one of those ones where I just say, as you're sort of doing it, just try maybe sort of like just playing around with it, and every now and again just putting the curve the opposite way around and seeing how it looks. Because sometimes shadows kind of fall differently to what you expect. You know, I mean, what I'm doing now might not necessarily be 100% accurate, but it kind of looks right. Bit of shadow on either side here, it's kind of make this feel a bit rounded. Shadow off the inside. Maybe just a bit of shadow on a few of these. Let's get these leaves in here to pass it back up. Just throw it in there nicely. A little bit of shadow on the leaves. Nothing crazy. You can add lines if you want, but I just prefer doing that sort of shading. I sort of try to change it up every now and again. You know, I do my leaves very, very different all the time. Every now and again I'll do it one way and I'll be like, oh, I like this, and I'll do it away for a little bit and then I'll sort of change it up, but I try to make a habit of not always doing it the same way for too long. It's kind of nice as well because I can always generally tell when I've done a tattoo just by looking at the leaves. So I kind of remember when I went through that kind of phase of doing those kind of type ones. I was at a tattoo a little while ago and that sort of guy came in and I was like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. We must have done that about 7 years ago. He's like, how do you remember it was that long? And I was like, well, the leaves. That was the leaves I was doing 7 years ago. There we go. And I think that'll do, people. That is how you draw a tiger design from beginning to end. And like I said, we'll do another video and I'll show you how to turn this into a tattoo stencil. You know, we'll mark out all the things. I'll show you how to mark out the shading and stuff, you know, why I would do it and kind of how I would approach it. But yeah, for now, people, I hope you like it. Check out my videos, comment, like, subscribe. I am The Broken Puppet and I'll see you next time. Peace.